Hey there, this is Matt with State of Flux here with a review for Iron Man, continuing down the road to Avengers Doomsday. We are all the way to what most people consider the first MCU movie, because, you know, chronologically in real-world timelines it was, though it's not the first chronologically in the MCU timeline. You can check out my reviews for Captain Marvel and Captain America, which I will have links up here. Anyway, this film really came and knocked it out of the park right from the beginning. Iron Man was a character that I think a lot of people sat on. Unless you were a hardcore fan of the comic books, most people kind of thought Iron Man as a C-tier character unless they were deeply invested in comics and recognized quality where they saw it. But it wasn't until Robert Downey Jr. came on board that really people seemed to be all that interested in what this movie had to offer, and that was more because of Robert Downey Jr. I remember when he was announced to play this character, I was like, oh, that's interesting, because his character suffers from a lot of the same things that Robert Downey Jr. has already come so far from. What an interesting casting choice. I'm interested in seeing that. But it was just a passing interest. It wasn't something that I was deeply invested in. And you have to remember that we were coming to this movie after a sort of a slump. The Raimi movies, the first two, had done really well. That third one had financially done well, but people's response to it wasn't so hot. The X-Men movies had kind of petered out by this point, and we were getting Ghost Rider and Fantastic Four and things like that. So there wasn't a lot of momentum Marvel side until that trailer for Iron Man dropped. And Jon Favreau, who I had full faith in, because I was a big fan of Elf and Zathura and Swingers, which he wrote, I knew that he could deliver something, but I'd never really seen him deliver spectacle on a scale of like a superhero movie. I was blown away with this trailer, and I remember saying to my now wife, like, we have to see this opening night. So we went to the midnight show of this movie, and she had no interest in seeing it, but both of us were completely blown away, as were the friends that we went to see it with. It was one of those formative nights, and what you saw was the building blocks that would be utilized through many films upcoming, through how to make these origin movies for the MCU for about 10 years' time. It's only lately that they've kind of strayed away from the Iron Man formula. And really, this formula is kind of not all that dissimilar from, you know, Batman Begins. But that being said, I think it is far more effective than Batman Begins, and in large part is because they find a way to make Tony's arc not stop the moment he decides to make the suit. He's continuing to learn afterwards. That was my big complaint with Batman Begins. You can watch the link somewhere up here for my review on that film, but Bruce Wayne stagnates the moment he decides to become Batman. You see him, like, unsuccessfully wear the suit a couple of times and then learn to become Batman, but you spend an hour of him learning to become Batman and not really learning or changing beyond what he'd already established the moment that he commits to burning down and killing all those people at Ra's al Ghul's palace. This is different. Tony Stark is not Bruce Wayne. He commits to making that, and then he goes home and he makes the decision that he's taking away the thing that finances his company. And he's beginning to learn humanity from those around him, including the little robot, which was adorable and one of my favorite characters in that film that's sort of been lost along the way. But that one is the one that provides him his heart at the end, which is sweet. Anyway, you see him continue to grow and learn throughout the rest of this film, even down to the final moment when he chooses to announce to the world, I am Iron Man. And a superhero was born unlike anyone he had really seen prior to this point. And Jon Favreau choosing to take the script, film the scripted scenes, but go off book a little bit and allow tremendous actors who are masters of their craft to find the scene in front of the camera, while also him having the forthwith of knowing how to structure a scene and the importance of where everything needs to get to make it not feel messy like a Judd Apatow movie or overlong, or something like that, like a Paul Feig movie. He knew how to make this thing concise. It feels almost like a Robert Altman film in how its approach to each scene is with its actors and with its characters. And that's why I think you got filmmakers, or film critics really taking notice of this film. Roger Ebert even gave it 4 stars. And you have great characters and great actors embodying them. Virtually everybody in this film has either won an Oscar or gone on to win an Oscar. And that's saying something. There is talent in front of and behind the camera all the way through. There's not a lot to say about this movie that people haven't already said, but I do like to point out the one thing was that this movie, along with The Dark Knight, are what's responsible for the surge of comic book movies that we got for 10 years after that. Yes, the X-Men and Spider-Man ones really launched them, and you had a good filmmaker helming one of those franchises all the way through, but studio interference and awkward directing choices led those franchises as well as the other surrounding films to kind of putter out, where people weren't really thinking that these films really had much to offer besides spectacle. This one changed that, as did The Dark Knight. And there was a debate that summer of what was the better movie, and most people seem to agree that The Dark Knight was the better movie because it had the better villain. That being said, this was the movie that more people would rather rewatch because of how different it was. You can't really say that now, and I think now, being that the MCU kind of has a samey quality, especially through a lot of those first couple of phases, I don't know that that still holds water, but that summer that was a big conversation that a lot of people were having. What was the better movie, Iron Man or The Dark Knight? Dark Knight, yes, seems to have a little more weight and changed the Oscars and all that kind of stuff, and had a performance that was recognized by the Oscars, and this didn't really get any Oscar love. But in the geek community, this was a beloved film and launched a whole cinematic universe that is like 40 movies and TV shows deep at this point. And it's spectacular. I think Iron Man is, for me, it's better than The Dark Knight. Just kind of full stop. That said, The Dark Knight is its own masterpiece. You can watch my review for that. I'll link it around. But this is a great, great, great movie, and it's because what you saw unfolding on screen with Tony Stark's character also reads true with Robert Downey Jr. It's reclamation of a life that was spiraling out of control. And what you see is a man who's imperfect that is going to propel himself into being better. And what is more heroic than that? It's not the superhero, it's the man that makes this as fantastic as it is. Iron Man is a 4-star film. I love it. I think he's great. His performance with Gwyneth Paltrow, she is so lovely in the film, and I love the character Pepper Potts. I showed this to my daughter, and she liked Iron Man. She was a little confused by the framework of it, jumping back and forth, but she really seemed to like Pepper Potts and Agent Coulson. She was surprised at the twist villain not being the Ten Rings, but being Obadiah Stane. That sort of surprised her, and she was like, whoa, so it's like Iron Man versus Iron Man at the end. And I'm like, yeah, get ready for that a couple of times, kid. That being said, her big hang-up was she loved Captain America because of how good Chris Evans was and how good Steve Rogers is. And she was kind of rubbed the wrong way with Tony Stark. She was like, he's not really a nice guy, and she's like, I mean, he's learning to be good, and that's good, but it really kind of bothered her that this superhero was kind of a sleaze. And I'm like, well, that's kind of his character journey. I'm curious to see where she lands with him moving forward. But she liked this movie. She didn't like it anywhere near as much as Captain America or Captain Marvel, which surprised me. But anyway, I love this movie. What more is there to say about Iron Man? Let me know what you thought of this film in the comment area down below. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and peace.